Today I will be talking about satellite internet technology for our both communication satellite, remote sensing satellite, or for a ground segment, ground stations, ground terminals, even your mobile, your handset terminals, all everywhere antenna. Antenna does not distinguish whether it's what type application it is having, whether it's aircraft or whether it's a mobile or a seaport or anywhere. So every time the antenna is like a sensor, it's like a eyes of a communication system, or you can say the ear. If it's transmitting a receiver, it's like our eyes and ear for a communication system. And whether it does not distinguish whether it is what application it is working, it does not distinguish whether it's remote sensing. It has to have its own application, and the RF designers does not change his approach for the selection of the application. So today I will talk about the antenna technologies. Tomorrow I will talk about the measurements, and in today's talk I will be covering I'll give a small what is the introduction. I'll give, and after that what is the scenario today existing, and future trend and ISRO capabilities which we are having right now, and where we need your contribution too, because you people are bubbling with new ideas, and you are having a young generation, and that has to be geared up to work for those challenges which are there in the country. Now, antenna, as you know, as I was saying, even a sensory appendage found in the head of any insect. So it's like you can just see the antenna is very primitive. If you say it's well-known thing since beginning, and we have to only see whether it receives or transmit the signal for its own application. Application can be anything. Now, for the satellite communication, what happens is that you need to have earlier when we used to talk about 1980s, we used to have only one sat program, Indian satellite, and there were very few satellites, and it used to be very costly affair. Most of the things were done with the terrestrial communication, and everywhere it was. But now scenario has changed. Now everybody needs satellite, not one, not two. Everybody needs for its own application. Like for today, for your DTH application, you need one dedicated satellite. For your EduSat, for your education of all the whole country, you need a dedicated satellite. Earlier there used to be only one satellite which used to cater all the needs. So today we need a high capacity building satellite, and we need a very wide frequency spectrum. And these wide frequency spectrum is required. There are two issues are there. It is not available. Everybody wants. Even your mobile communication needs S-band. They need to have work in a microwave band today. So there is a war going on that why should it be given to the your consumer market, because the satellite communication is also being used for the S-band 2.5 gigahertz. So there is a wide frequency spectrum we need, but we don't have that because not only within its own country, but even when we have to interfere with the neighboring country. Now suppose you have a defined boundary of your own country, but your communication signal does not distinguish that boundary. So it can be interfering with the other country also. So there may be interference, or there may be a spillover, unnecessary. You are wasting the power also. Both issues are there. And then high power requirement comes because everybody today needs a very small handset. Whether you talk about any tactical communication, even army jawan needs a very small communication terminal sitting on his backpack, and he can move around anywhere. So there is going to be a high power requirement in the satellite itself. And then the new application, new service areas, which I will talk later on. But just to give you a glimpse of the idea, that in the present scenario, the 11 geo satellites are being planned in the next 5 years. Now this is the scenario. I have not changed the dates, the years, because this was done in 11th 5-year program, that is the last year. So what I am saying is 11 satellites are planned in the 5 years. That means every year minimum 2 communication satellites. Now the new application has come, which is a navigation satellite. Today aircrafts are being navigated through a local terrestrial radar communication system, up to all may be knowing. Now they are looking for a communication, the satellite based navigation system like GPS. So even India is now, ISRO is planning for its own country a separate communication navigation satellite program similar to what we are having in the GPS. So there are again 9 satellites has to be planned in the next 5 years. Then what is the scenario? If you put 2 together, then it's going to be how many? 21 satellites. This is only about communication. Now, my idea is not to make you feel that so much work is there. My idea is to tell you that so many satellites are coexisting together. Then you imagine what is the frequency band we need, what type of polarization we need. I am talking in terms of antenna. Now, what type of side lobe requirement will be there? They should not interfere with each other. They should not have any implication in terms of interference with each other. Now, these are the typical. Now, as I was saying earlier, that when the antenna designer cannot distinguish whether this antenna is for a satellite communication or for remote sensing or for a ground segment or for a satellite onboard satellite antenna. Because you see, when satellite antenna is there, it has to have a point-to-point communication. Now, in this case, when we are talking about the satellite communication antenna, then it has to communicate with many over the Indian land, or suppose any mass communication. Like here you are seeing, if you see here, this is for the South Asian countries and even the European part of Europe also. So one single satellite need to communicate with so many users on the ground, depending upon the requirement. And this may be the one typical case where we want to have a special zonal beam requirement. And then different, like this is a global. Now we have taken only the land mass. So the designer has to now design an antenna where he should be able to shape the beam. Otherwise, if you take any radiation pattern of any antenna, how it looks like? How it looks like? If you have a radiation pattern, you look like this circular concentric rings only. Okay, because you will be getting a cosecant pattern, and then if you cut at any point, you will get a circle. Okay, so but if you don't shape the antenna, unshape it, then it will look like this. And if you plot those patterns on the earth or any region, then you will get circles like this. But this is more of wastage of power, because you are not defining the surface on which you want to have a pattern like this. If you see here the shape of the radiation pattern does not comply with what we have always see as a conventional radiation pattern. Here, if you cut, in this case, you will see a different cuts. You will have different shapes. Okay. If you take here any cut X or Y or E plane or S plane or XY plane, you will always get the same circular pattern. But unlike here. So this is the need of R, that we need to develop antennas which are required for shaped patterns we need for making the antenna more efficient. Similarly, from a single antenna, you want to generate a very high number of beams. Number of beams I need more. Like EduSat satellite was a one satellite where we had 5 beams from a single antenna. Now we are talking about 32 beams, 16 beams and all that. So that means again for one beam your antenna is efficient maybe 70% or 75%. But when you talk about 16 beams, so what is the efficiency you are getting now? So that also comes as a challenge for a designer for an antenna. But then comes your like this is the one which is required for our DTH application, where they need very high power. Very high and very low variation within the country. If you see here, the variation from this Bhopal to the edge of the Gujarat, the role of the variation in the power should be, that means it is at the sector shape pattern. So shape is like not a circular, not even a shape, it is a sector shape. So you need to shape the pattern, and then it can be this pattern can be this same thing can be achieved by many ways, by the reflector antenna or by array antenna or by a single your different antenna technologies can be used. So which I will talk about. So these are the opportunities whatever I talked today just now, for which antenna designer has to get motivated and has to work for, because he needs a challenge for high power, wide frequency spectrum, shaping the pattern and meeting all the other specifications which are required for your CCR regulations also. You can achieve all these things, but you have to, there are regulatory bodies there which is saying that you should not interfere with the adjacent satellite or a nearby station. Two stations should not interfere with each other. Now, for a communication satellite, this is one picture of one of the satellite of GSAT-3, one of the typical satellite, where you see these are solar panels which is meant for generating power, and this is the cuboid which is having all the electronics and transmit and receive. And these are the antennas has to come out, has to look towards the globe, so they are looking towards the globe. So there are two faces are there, we call it east and west, and these goes to the north and south. And then this is the one other area where we can put the antennas. So right now, currently you are seeing only 3 antennas are there, but the way the things are moving, we have to make the antenna size either more compact or give a challenge to the mechanical design engineer to put maybe 6 or 8 antennas on the same cuboid. So both have to work together. Even when we say we have made the antenna very compact and very highly efficient, still the demand is so challenging that they want more DD, and they say you put not more than, don't put only 3, put 6, 8 like that, and it has been reality. Whatever I am saying is the reality. People are putting that. Now antenna when we talk, we say for all the frequency band from UHF to Ka band currently ISRO is working on, and KU you already up to KU probably I think you all are aware that we are working on DTH. Everybody's house we are having one DTH antenna, and UHF is for tactical purposes, even our defense people or for sailor, for those people are using. And L band is the navigation, again the way I said, the GPS satellite, the L and S band is being used for that application. And they have their own merit and demerit in terms of their utilization. Now, another is the application, the airborne application and the ground terminal and remote sensing and communication, again because the frequency spectrums are defined for this application. The airborne application for SAR, it is already predefined. Their power is, when they talk about high power radar, the signal power is so high, and the level of signal which you receive in a communication system. Can somebody answer how much is the power generally your DTH system which you are having in your house? How much power you are receiving it at your terminal, at the input of your, or maybe at the output of your input to the TV where you are getting a low band signal? It's a hardly, maybe, pardon?
Maybe few milliwatts.
Imagine. No, if somebody's radar is there in the same frequency band, its side lobe itself will be of the same, maybe more than this power. So the interference is very important. That's why the communication signal have been defined and has been reserved for its own application. Because the interference will be very high. And now I will talk about the design aspect first. Now, whenever a designer has to design any antenna, what is the prime thing he has to do? He has to use the CAD design tools which are available with him, or he has to select them depending upon the application of what he is working. And he has to meet a very high quality of yield. What does it mean? This means that he should not go for any repeat, any failure or any, which is the rejection should be as low as possible, and the cost of fabrication should be very low. Because if you have a very good design, it may meet the specification, but the mechanical fabrication can be so high, the tolerances requirement may be so high that the cost is going up. So designer requirement is to design an antenna with a high performance with a low cost. Cost always comes into picture. So, and high performance means what? High performance means this is the antenna design. This is your condition going to become like this. If you're going to have low volume, low weight, you need to have low cost, low cross polarization. Everything should be best. And that's everybody's goal is that we should have shape pattern, beam to beam isolation should be as low as possible. We should have multi-band, multi-frequency. So it should have all these performance, meeting all these performance. Then he has to compromise what he should do and what he should not do. Now I come to the next slide. What is the trend now? The trend is, you know all these requirements, and just for your quick reference, I put all three different types of reference. Now these are the conventional antenna which we used to have earlier, unshaped beam. Then we are going to shaped beam. These are all reflector antenna. I am not talking about array, I am talking about reflector. Then we have dual graded, which I will talk about a little later. The multiple beam which I was talking about, the ADUSAT type of program where we need to have more number of beams from a single antenna. Then real reflector technology, then reconfigurable shape. I want to reconfigure because the satellite life is itself is minimum 8 to 10 years, and it depends on the then so today whatever requirement I have with me, it may change tomorrow after 5 years. So I should be able to have a adaptive reconfigurable antennas. So that's how the reconfigurable shape beam antenna still is the one topic on which we are still working. It can be achieved both ways, by changing the reflector surface profile by using smart material, or by using a adaptive array which is very well known, but it has its own problems. Then we have array antenna, phase array antenna, and active array. Now these three, today the scenario is that both are working hand to hand. And during the time when the radar was there, people were more concentrating on reflectors. But today there is a balance is being struck between the array antenna and this antenna. Why? Because the technology not only of antennas, because of the other devices available for the low power devices and high power devices for a miniaturized size are also available today. So we can use this for the phase array concern. Now then comes the scanning beam. Sometimes we have a scanning beam requirement. You want to scan the beam over suppose one of the application came, you need to scan the beam all across your border areas. Now you need to scan beam, if you see in terms of theta and phi, they are predefined, and you want to scan the beam with the rate in which the user wants. So this type of requirement need scanning beam antennas. If you see a ground station antenna, you will immediately go for a mechanical scanning, which is not very easy to implement on a spacecraft. So you have to go for a different type of technology. So this is what I was telling you, the 16 beam is being planned for now. Advanced communication satellite is going to come up in another 2 years, where we are covering even the Andaman and this Maldives also, Lakshadweep also. And this will be the scenario when we are talking about 32 beams. And both, when we talk about any beam, we talk about its application in both transmit and receive. In each beam, there are both transmit and receive capabilities are there. And in each beam, you should be able to isolate from this beam to this, because the user who is sitting here should not get interference from the signal which is getting overlapped here. So that is the, okay. Now what is the trend now? This is what I told you, the need only. The trend is, we know that we need to have a reflector technology, we should have a phase array technology, but we need to have a very important point which we in our country, nationwide we have seen, the materials have to be explored, new material has to be explored. Why today we are talking about Chandrayaan mission? Why today we are talking about very high costly satellite system which we are sending for a moon mission? Because everybody is in a race of exploring new materials, which is required today, because it has to be lightweight, it has to be more, should have more stress, it should have the capability to withstand, it should be low coefficient of temperature variation, should be, because temperature variation in space is very high. So all that qualities should be there. And then we are talking about metamaterial, which is nowadays become a very important area where we are able to reduce the size of an antenna by changing the property. It is not a natural material, you are doing something in the existing material to change its property so that you can use it for your any application. And the most important application is antenna, where people are finding it, the size is the biggest problem. And then EBD materials, and then low loss, low dielectric constant material. Even today, whatever material we are having in our, for any our MIC, microwave integrated circuits, whoever is doing, we are importing this material from the US. So we have to go for a low dielectric, our own indigenous, equivalent to those which people are using. And then LTCC, technology with the antenna, where we need to have co-firing of different materials in the multi-layer configuration. It's a new technology. I'll just give you a small this on this, that the most important is when we are doing packaging of the transmit and receive along with the antenna, then you need to have a LTCC technology, because you can integrate directly. Yes. Otherwise, what generally what conception is, antenna is here, transmitter is here, receiver is here. You put either to the connectors or to the cables. But now technology requires that your antenna and your trans and receive system should be in a multi-layer configuration, so that you get directly embedded in a single sandwich. You are having all the three together without any connector, without any cable. Because imagine if you say phasor array antenna system and you have suppose 200 elements. If one connector you put, if your weight of a connector is 1 gram, you are having 200 grams. You have to have only of the connectors. As the array size goes up, the connectors, the cables, all those, and then the testing of each and everything becomes really headache. So this is the new technology which is coming up. And in India, we are establishing in 2-3 places. One is Siri Pilani and another is in Pune, CMAT, but still a lot of work has to be done. Whatever we are developing, this MIC fractals or this metamaterials, they have to be worked with the technology where we are having a packaging density is high. There can be a deployable, of course, any antenna can be deployed, because we have to, in telecommunication becomes more important, because this antenna, this whole cuboid, the satellite has to be put into a launcher and it has a particular volume. You cannot fly this room, so it has to be made compact and fold, and then it gets unfolded. Into the solar panel also it gets unfolded there only. That's why deployable antenna becomes all the more important. And then EV top fixed antennas are there, which are there on the top of this. EV means earth viewing. This top always look towards the earth. That's why it's called earth viewing antenna, top fixed antenna. Gimbal mount antenna. And then this all satellites are being, their health, they are being monitored by a one control station always, what is happening in the satellite. One is satellite antennas are looking towards the user, and user is getting communication, whether it's whatever application. But the health of a satellite is also very important. What is happening inside? So a lot of telemetry data is coming from the satellite to the ground, and accordingly they keep on monitoring the temperature, its pitch, roll and yaw axis, whether it is stabilized platform or it may tumble also. And it may give more errors, and you are wondering why the signal is not coming, and maybe it is looking towards some other region of the globe. So the telemetry and tracking antennas are becoming very important today in today's world. Why? Because nobody want to have any failure or any loss of signal because of any pointing accuracy or tracking accuracy. So tracking antennas are becoming very important nowadays. Because if you have an antenna on an aircraft is moving. Thank God this satellite is stationary. Okay, now but if your aircraft is moving, how aircraft will have communication with the satellite? And it can take any type of, even 180 degree rotation also it can take aircraft, while it cannot keep its position fixed while moving along for its purpose. So tracking antenna become very important. I will emphasize on that. Then I am going to give you some highlights what we have developed on that. So whatever, if I see whatever I said last 20 minutes is this is the trends in the feed. You need high power, wide band, and multipolarized. This is only dual polarized, multiple polarized. Then we need a tracking. The tracking, How many you have read monopole set tracking? I am sure you must have read in radars. Okay, now tracking, we know monopole tracking, there are 4 horns are being used. That is the old technology now. People are using now single aperture, higher order mode techniques where they take care, where the signal loss is very minimum, the tracking slope is very high, so that you are with the minimum loss and you are able to get you are able to track. Now, why should there be minimum loss? Why should there be minimum loss? We always say that any device we say it should have minimum loss.
Efficiency should be better.
Power efficiency, you are talking about power device efficiency, I think.
Any efficiency of a device.
No, not generalized. See, power efficiency, if you say, it's different issue. That you are in, that is what I am saying, loss is there. Now, what loss can do? Loss means a power dissipation. Mismatch is okay, but power dissipation, heat. So heat will be produced. Okay, so that also maybe, so that's the reason whenever we say high power somewhere, okay, high power feeds, we say because the power dissipation has to be very low. Otherwise, the power, when you have a 4 kilowatt power and you are even 0.1 dB insertion loss is going to generate a lot of heat. Okay, because the heat, your loss get directly converted into heat. Even if my communication system may be able to afford, I can pump more power. Okay, and my gain of antenna, I can put more large size of antenna so that my losses I am able to take care. But the heat dissipation becomes very important. Similarly, in the antenna systems also, you have different types of antennas. These are reflector antennas and these are what we call phase array antennas. Now, unshaped antenna I will not cover more because already you are aware of this. Unshaped antenna means a simple parabola and you have a feed here and it's a circular beam and wherever cut you have you get a circularly shaped. You get a concentric circles. Now, so these are the, just you will get a glimpse of, this is the reflector and these are the 4 arms and these are the feet kept here and you are illuminating the reflector with the feet and you are trying to see your efficiency of the reflector. You get around 55 to 60%. You cannot get more than that. So these are the typical parameters. Generally we get 27 to 28 dB cross polarization. Now what do you mean by cross polarization? Silence.
The X component and the Y component, the angle between this 90 degree, 0 to not 0 exactly, it should be 92 to 70 degrees.
Okay. Now, if I say the other way, what he said is, I think right, you are correct. But in different words, I will say that if you want to send a signal in linear polarized signal, suppose X polarized signal, the maximum signal should go into X polarization. Nothing should go into the Y, which is orthogonal to X. So that is how minimum you are sending a signal in the Y polarization is the cross polarization signal. So cross polarization signal should be as low as possible. The way we say, well, ultimately the energy of conservation is there. If you are sending some antenna antenna is transmitting both the polarization. Okay. So, but still with this technology you are only able to get 27 to 28 dB cross polarization you are able to get, 28 dB. So, not more than that. That also because you cannot, but today's scenario when we are talking about so many 22 satellites in a simple small arc of geostationary orbit, you need to have a satellite which should be able to give you better than 32, 33 dB cross polarization. That's why it becomes more challenging for an antenna designer that he has to shape the surface to get the shape pattern instead of your concentric circular shape pattern, circular beam, and he has to get a high polarization purity also. And that is the 33 dB cross polarization. So these two requirement means now the reflector. What are the two various causes of generating cross polarization? One is the feed which is there. Feed is any radiator which may be also having its own generating signal in the cross polarization, and when this signal goes on the reflector, then again it is generating adding some cross polarization. So you have to see that your cross polarization signal should be as low as possible. So 30 and 30 dB is a standard being put by CCIR, but 33 dB is the requirement generally. Now this is one of the shaped surface, you are not able to see any undulation here, the way you are seeing here. See, it's not a parabolic shape, it's neither a elliptical, it's neither a hyperbolic shape, it is a shaped surface which can have any ellipticity. So then the feed is this, and this is a reflector, and this is a mask on which it is being capped, and then you get the pattern which is adhering to the Indian boundary. Okay, and you have to meet the cross polarization. These are the measured performance. This is the measured performance. We have deliberately put together. You just see how to. Tomorrow we will discuss how to measure this type of radiation pattern measurement. How do you measure this? What are the challenges there? Then comes the shape reflector, where we talk about K band, E band, and then these are the you see here is how the shape is changing along the edges. Now, in the case of any satellite, then you have multiple reflectors. Then you have to worry about these, like you see here, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3, 8. 8 antennas are there. Okay. Then there this is one of our inside 3 satellite where we have 3 antennas, 2 antennas. Like this, there can be any number of antennas, and each antenna has to have a meets the specification in isolation of other antenna, and when they are kept in that environment where multiple antennas are there, then again it has to meet the requirement, because there may be some interference from the adjoining antennas. Now comes the dual graded reflector. Now we have a problem of 30 dB cross polarization, 32, 33 and all that. Okay. Now that's why the new technology has come now in in the reflector antenna system, where you are seeing 2 colors you are seeing here. Now these are 2 reflectors. They are placed one upon the other. But you may be wondering how then the communication can occur, because one is there on the back. So the front reflector is having a grids, and it will allow only one polarization to get reflected, the other polarization get transmitted through. So this is acting like a polarization filtering now, this front surface. And front surface is acting as a polarization filtering. That means what? The cross polarization is going to be very low, because if X get reflected, the Y polarization is going to not get reflected. It will go and hit the back reflector, and back reflector is going to reflect the signal. With the, it may reflect. We can design, an antenna designer can design in such a way that the cross polarization of this whatever comes from the back goes in some different direction. It doesn't come on that region where you are interested. So this is a new technology where we are embedding the 2 surfaces, where we are having 2 reflector surfaces, and the front shell is sensitive to one of the polarization, and the back shell is sensitive to the another polarization. So whatever you have seen till today is the solid reflectors. They are also solid, but only thing is the surface, the material which is used on the front surface is of different quality. It allows only one polarization to get. It is for the other, it is blind. It will, as if nothing is available there. So this technology has given us a very good, that now we are able to fly the antenna with a, you see here, these contours are 32 dB cross polarization. You see, these are the cross polarization pattern over the Indian region. Now we are getting 32 dB cross polarization. Though the gain you are getting, whatever you specified was there, now you are getting improved cross polarization of the, you see here, this is the front surface, this is the back surface, and this is put with a sandwich inside, and these holes are there to reduce the weight. Okay, now this was there for C band. Similarly, we have one for K band. Now, this has a relevance I will talk about tomorrow, but what I am trying to show here is that when your antenna is mounted on a spacecraft, you test the performance, and when it goes in satellite, then again we have to ensure that whether the satellite antenna is giving the same radiation pattern or not. We have to measure it again, and then we have to see these are the radiation pattern. You see, these are the predicted one, and this is the one which we are getting in the in-orbit performance. So this type of I will talk more tomorrow, but just to tell you that the accuracy is required is of this order, then only the one can go for any international quality of commitment. Then multiple spot beam, as I was talking, 5 beam, 16 beam and 32 beam, you need to generate various types of beam, 2, 4, 5, 6 from a single antenna. Okay. Now this is already 5 beams are already there in HUSAT, 2 beams were flown earlier in GSAT-1, and 8 beams are going to fly in the month of July in the K band, where we are going to have 8 beams of K band over the Indian region. And then when you talk about 8 beams means what? Is equal to 8 antennas, is equal to 8 transmit chain, 8 receive chain. Then the complexity, you just see how many number of plumb lines will be there, waveguides will be there. These are the 8 feeds which are you see here. These are the 5 beams. These are for the example of GSAT 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each is having a transmit and receive. So going to get in 10 number of waveguides will be there, and the system becomes more and more complex, and each feed has to be located. The position has been adjusted so that you get a performance of the order of covering the Indian region. Now these are the, what you saw earlier was the shaped, unshaped beams. Again, these are unshaped circular beams. Okay, you can say elliptical, ellipticity is there. But if you see here, they are shaped beams. They are having any number, it is as good as we try to see whether one of the state can be covered properly. If it is required, we can have nearly 18 to 20 or 25 beams, but some of the states like UP, you cannot have covered with single one beam. You have to have a more number of beams. But that is why the beams are sized with as per our requirement. So now here the reflectors are again shaped in such a way that you get a shaped beams. And here what we do is we use physical optics techniques, the geometrical optic techniques. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, and we try to see that whatever. How many of you know Snell's law? I think everybody must be knowing. So Snell's law only is being followed here. See, once any electromagnetic ray get impinged on a reflector surface, it's a conductor, and what law it has to follow? Snell's law only. So then the incident rays angle and reflected angle has to be the same. So similarly, your whatever rays are there are falling here, you have to see that they all follow in the same beam. They should not go outside the beam. And then for that, when we go into high frequency, then we have to use diffraction techniques also, because edges of the reflector gives the diffraction, and diffraction means your side lobes will go up. Now when we talk about high gain antennas, because everybody wants, like now we are planning for, in ISRO we are planning for a geo-based mobile communication system. Today you are having a cell-based, terrestrial based mobile system. Now we are planning for a space-based. So there you need not a small antenna, because we are communication through a 36,000 kilometer satellite. So the signals are going to be very weak. If we talk about 2 meter or 3 meter or 4 meter, we have to go up to 6 meter antenna. Or in future we are planning for 12 meter and 30 meter also. Maybe antenna will be required to be put into the launcher. Now in this case what happens? So antenna has to unfurl like this in space, and when it is getting launched, it has to adhere to the cuboid, and when it goes outside in the space after the launching, the unfurlable reflector is having like our umbrella. You have umbrella. You have the many concepts are there. One is Caesar type of ribs like concept. Another is umbrella type. So it gets unfurled there in the space, and you get a much bigger antenna. But of course, you see, it's not a continuous parabola. It is a piecewise continuous. That's why you are seeing many nodes here, and each node is satisfying the condition of your parabolic surface. But in between each triangle, you are approximating the surface with a planar surface. So that's why you are not able to use it for a high frequency. Otherwise, if you are ready to pay the penalty because of this error, then it's okay. Otherwise, that's why it is being used for a low frequency like L and S band. So we are using for S band for our communication satellite. And there are going to be 5 beams. 5 beams. Each 5 beam is going to be used for mobile communication. So this is how it will look like when it will get deployed in the more closer view in the space. So this is like a cloth, and that cloth is nothing but a metallic mesh which should be able to follow again your Snell's law. Then there are other new concepts are coming, which is inflatable antennas. Inflatable antennas means they get inflated when they go up. Then what happens there is the surface. Anybody familiar with the reflect array? Reflect array? No. Okay. Then I'll go to the feed systems now. Feed systems probably I have used many times the word feed, antenna and feed system. But feed is nothing but which is acting as a which is illuminating the reflector. Okay. Now this feed is having all I said, with the multipolation and wide bandwidth and high cross polation also applies to these feeds. And they are basically your two-wire transmission. If you know two-wire transmission line, you know waveguides. They are basically, it depends on the type of application, whether it is high power or large bandwidth. The suitable transmission lines are being used. And then in this particular case, all these what I have shown to you is a waveguide only, circular waveguide or rectangular waveguide. And then one can make corrugated horn, backflexing system. Single aperture, I was talking about single aperture multi-mode tracking feed. Then one has to go with a no 4-horn concept. Okay, now this is a 4-horn at Ka band. This is the onboard multi-mode tracking feed for Ka band, where you need to generate a very the difference pattern in azimuth and elevation with a large null depth greater than 38 dB. So this is the one which I was talking about, this multi-mode feed, where you see how complex it becomes. In the case of multi-mode, you have seen you all have read that hybrid magic T in your B engineering or in graduation. See how nicely the concept has been used here. You will see here at each point is the magic T. A 1, 2, then 3rd, 4th, there are 8 are there. So these are basically nothing but you want to add like the way you do in your microchip line, you want to make a use of hybrid magic T, your hybrid coupler or a Wilkinson power divider or adder. So same way in waveguide you can use a magic T or a waveguide combiner. Then one can easily extract not the dominant mode, the T1. One can extract the T21 and T21 star mode, which are available in the waveguide. You extract that and add them together, and then you get a very nice pattern of because TE21 has a property that it gives a null in the center. So we use this property to generate the azimuth and elevation error. So these are single aperture multiport, though it becomes complex, but the added feature will be it has many attraction. So these are the just for showing the different multiplexing systems and feeds. Then these are the, you see, I was talking about multi-band, multi-frequency antenna feed system. Each band is separated like this, like a multiplexing network. You have 4 ports, and each port is having its own frequency. You can have to separate C transmit your 5 gigahertz, 8 gigahertz, 12 gigahertz, and 15 gigahertz. So all the 4 signals have to be multiplexed from a single multiplexing system. And when you put two together, see how complex it looks. But for a designer who has designed, it is only again a combination of waveguides, different passive components, and different modes which he can visualize when he is designing the reflector. These are rotary joints which are generally used for all your communication. Each earth station, whenever it is needs. Earlier days we used to have only single channel rotary joints. Now when the requirement comes on the communication system, you need a multi-polarization and multi-feed, multi-frequency antenna system. Then you have to have a multi-polarization, multi-frequency, even your rotary joints also. So C and KU band rotary joints is another requirement which has come up. We have developed that. So it becomes 4 axis or 8 axis. Again, as the maybe as the requirement goes up, this may become more and more complex. Now this is the one which I want probably many of you may be aware, the planar array antenna technology. When we talk about various types of configuration like your stack patch and all that configuration, where we have patches on the upper layer and power combiner at the lower layer. So this is the one which we are using for our synthetic aperture radar technology, where we are using active phase array and we are making 2 meter by 6 meter antenna, which is again getting unfolded into space and have high power requirement and large scanning. Because wherever we need a scanning antenna, it is preferable to go into a phase array because it is not possible to move 6 by 2 meter, the 12 meter area to scan or mechanically scan antenna. So there you just see the 5760 elements are there. So many radiators are there. Active phase elements and amplitude variation is there. And then you are able to generate 41 beams out of single antenna. Then we talk about array. Then why to talk about only patches? It can be array of anything. It can be array of even reflectors, array of even your helical antenna. These are nothing but a helix which you must have seen in your labs also. So these are being used for our navigation satellite. It is getting launched next second quarter of this year. So array can be used for any concept. Now another one which you saw earlier, frequency. I said the number of frequencies are required. The only one way I showed you earlier was to separate the frequency from the waveguide. But this can also be done by using number of mirrors. You see here, this is a signal which can be. You just see I click here. You see now the green color has gone to the second reflector, and so there are 3 frequency feeds: F1, F2, F1, F2, and there is F3 also. So these 3 feeds are having a different frequency, and one can separate them by using mirrors. The way I told you, the gridded reflector are polarization sensitive. Here, each surface is having a frequency sensitive. So because of this property, one can separate the frequencies of each band, and this is how the surface looks like. They are basically a periodically array of number of dipoles, and each is acting as a resonator. And because of this resonance behavior, one can get one can have its own frequency selective surfaces.